Welcome to This Week in Morgan County. I'm your host, Russell Mokhiber. Our guest this week, State Senator Charles Trump. Charles is a graduate of Berkeley Springs High School, Princeton University, and the West Virginia College of Law. West Virginia University College of Law. He served as prosecuting attorney here in Morgan County from 1989 to 1992. He served in the West Virginia House of Delegates from 1992 to 2004. And last year, he was elected to the West Virginia Senate from the 15th District. And the 15th District is all of Morgan County, all of Hampshire County, part of Berkeley County, and part of Mineral County. Charles is also the chair of the West Virginia Senate Judiciary Committee. Charles, thanks for coming in and welcome.
Russell, thank you. My pleasure.
Charles, let's get straight into state politics. The West Virginia State Republican Committee met this week. I just heard this on the news this morning. And they held a straw poll among their members on who they would want for president of the United States. And it came in Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, and Donald Trump fourth. But a poll of West Virginia voters, I think it was 2 weeks ago, found that 29% wanted Donald Trump, and the second place person was Marco Rubio. And I'm wondering, given what you know of West Virginia politics, what's going on? Why is there such a push for Donald Trump while the West Virginia Republican Committee, Executive Committee, wants Ben Carson, apparently?
Boy, Russell, that's quite a question. I don't know is the answer to the question. And I read, as you did apparently, about the straw poll that was taken when the Executive Committee met. I'm not a member of the Executive Committee. And
do you have a preference? Do you have a preference for president?
I have not announced a preference, or as they say, hitched my wagon to a particular horse in that race, but I am enjoying it. It's actually kind of extraordinary to me, just the level of contest that already exists more than a year, year and a half out from an election. But
at the state level, the Senate Majority Leader, Bill Cole, is running for governor.
President of the Senate.
The President of the Senate, I'm sorry. The President of the Senate, Bill Cole, is running for governor. And it looks like it's going to be Bill Cole against Jim Justice, the state's only billionaire. That's what the polls show. It could be a different candidate for the Democrats.
Yeah, there are, I know Jeff Kessler, who is the Senate Minority Leader, is also running as a Democrat. Correct. And I've not seen any results of polls indicating how that Democratic primary might turn out.
Okay, is Bill Cole the only candidate running for governor as a Republican?
If there are others, I'm not aware of.
Okay, are you?
Technically, filing won't even open until January. So we talk about candidates. People have announced that they will be candidates and filed pre-candidacy papers, which allows them to start raising money and that sort of thing. But technically, nobody is a candidate until filing opens in January.
Okay. The reason I raise Cole versus Justice is, you have on one hand Justice, the only state's billionaire, and on the other hand, Bill Cole, who is an auto dealer. You would think in West Virginia, what do you think of that race? What do you think about the dynamics of that race would be?
Well, I'm a great fan of Bill Cole's. He's demonstrated some extraordinary organizational and leadership skills in the West Virginia Senate. And I'm committed to Bill Cole for governor. I think he'll be an excellent governor of West Virginia.
All right. Let's talk about the 2015 session, the one just passed. Sure. First, before we get to the 2015 session, you were in Charleston 10 years ago, and now you're back. What's the difference? What was the perceived difference that you saw?
Well, there are many differences. In my prior service in the legislature, I was in the House of Delegates, of course. I'm serving now in the Senate. That's a difference. In the 14 years during which I served in the House, was always as a member of the minority party. And so, as you know, in the election last November, the Republicans captured control of both houses of the legislature for the first time in 84 years in West Virginia.
Correct.
So there is a big difference. I'm serving in the majority now.
All right. And the split on the Senate is 18 Republicans to 16 Democrats. It's going to be close again. What's your outlook for the West Virginia Senate?
You mean as far as how it'll be composed after the next election?
Yes, correct.
You know, I learned a long time ago never to venture too far into the world of predictions on that sort of thing. I will say this, it's probably going to end up being close either way it is, which is good. I think that's healthy. You know, I hope the Republicans maintain control.
Okay.
But an 18-16 majority, as you point out, is literally the narrowest of possible margins.
Correct. Let's talk legislature from 2015. In January 2014, there was a spill of 7,500 gallons of toxic chemicals into the Elk River in Charleston. The legislature, you co-sponsored legislation this year that would exempt a huge number of above-ground tanks from the law that was passed in 2014. And this came under attack by environmental groups who are saying, what is going on here? We had this spill, it wrecked the water of the city of Charleston, and we passed a law to regulate above ground tanks. And then here comes Charles Trump and the Republican leadership saying, we want to exempt these above ground tanks from the law. Why was that done? Why was that proposal made?
The bill that was passed in 2014 was widely recognized, even by some of the members of the environmental community and by the State Department of Environmental Protection, as being overly broad, unnecessarily broad. We did narrow it a little bit in 2015 in a way that I think makes sense and serves the public interest. We embedded in the bill now some areas, critical areas, where all tanks will be regulated. We define certain sorts of tanks, depending on their content, that are always regulated no matter where they're located. But the purpose of the bill originally and this year is to protect public drinking water sources. And the bill that was passed last year went way too far in that. In fact, to the point, Russell, that it regulated farm tanks containing nothing more than water.
Correct, but the legislation that was originally proposed, and this has to do with the sausage making of legislation, the legislation that was originally proposed was widely considered way too deregulatory. They deregulated 90% of the above ground tanks, and that's not what eventually came out in the law, correct? Tell us how that went from the bill that you put your name on to what ended up coming out as
well. And we spent a lot of time on it in the committee that I chair, the Senate Judiciary Committee. One of the important parts of the consideration of any serious legislation is making sure you have a good process. So with that bill, what we did was we held many stakeholders meetings and included, by design, members of the environmental community who had strong feelings, not wanting to see significant rollbacks that could endanger drinking water sources, as I did. That was my feeling as well. The State Department of Environmental Protection, as well as the representatives from the various groups that have tanks that would be subject to regulation. And we spent literally hours and hours, dozens of hours, with those groups, hammering out what became our final product, a bill that I think is balanced and protects the public interest.
Okay. On another issue, the national popular vote. We have a system under which 4 presidential candidates through our history have been elected president even though they came in second. There's a move to bypass the Electoral College, effectively, where these states, I think 11 states, have now passed a law saying, we want our electors to vote for the candidate who gets the most votes. So that the candidate who gets the most votes is elected president. And never again will we face a situation where the candidate who comes in second is elected president. Now, they just need a couple more states to pass this. and you're opposed to this legislation. You want to preserve the Electoral College.
I do.
And tell us why. Why is it fair, why is it democratic that a candidate who gets fewer votes becomes president?
Well, under the national popular vote scenario, if hypothetically West Virginia were to subscribe to that, you could have a situation where the citizens of West Virginia voted overwhelmingly, 75 to 25, for a particular candidate, but the state's electors would have to vote for the defeated candidate in West Virginia because that candidate won the national popular vote. It's outrageous. I would never support that. The people of West Virginia deserved to have their voices heard. Now, I won't say you suffer from a misconception, but you start from a premise that many people do in this discussion, and that is the idea that the President of the United States is to be popularly elected. The Constitution of the United States leaves the election of the President of the United States to the states, not to the people, to the states themselves. And the Constitution allocates to each state a number of electors. It is related to population because the number of electors assigned is based on the representation in the Congress. But it's not a national popular vote contest, never has been.
But not everything the Constitution said is moral or just or correct. I mean, the Constitution said that African Americans would get three-fifths of a vote, and that was eventually changed. What I'm saying is that this is also a state process. There are 11 states who've said we want our electors to vote for the candidate who gets most votes. So it is it's a states' rights process where the states are pushing to bypass the Electoral College.
Where big states are pushing to have small states surrender their authority and autonomy to the more populous states. That's what the national popular vote movement is.
Okay, but
it would say the people of West Virginia will surrender to the people of California their part in determining who the President of the United States is. I do not agree with it, and if it ever passes in West Virginia, it'll be over my no vote and strenuous objection.
And it would have to go through you because you're chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It would start there, I would guess.
Well, you would think now that the President of the Senate decides which committees field which bills as they're introduced. So one would think that would be a measure that the Judiciary Committee would be looking at if it were introduced and to be taken up.
Okay. And we're done with our first segment now, so we're going to take a break and we will be right back.